Hi everybody, I am Husky Light. I hope you're all really, really well. I've got to turn my light on, that's better. Couldn't see anything. Interview coming up with Maree Batchelor from Australia. She is, I will have a look at this. She is a multidimensional physician and genetic path cutter. Now, today is part one because we had some woo going on during the interview. Both of our energies were very, very high, and you will see my electrical, my side of things pretty much cocking up on Zoom as we go through the interview. So it's not as long as we wanted it to do. So this is part one today, just about how she woke up, the process that she went through the awakening. And part two is going to come up in a couple of days. And if you get into that one, we are going to be going through all the multidimensional aspects of the awakening process. We are going to go through programming, MK Ultra. We're going to go deep. We're going to go deep into the woo. We're going to discuss about programming, enslavement, pharmaceutical companies, chemtrails, all sorts of things. We're really going to get deep into it in the second part. So in this first part, there is a small when you see what happens with me, it freaked me out completely. I didn't like it at all, but it's simply our energies working against the electrical devices, the devices that we're actually using to get the interview out with. It's not as bad as Skype though, so that's good. So watch, enjoy, and part two of this will be out in a couple of days. Okay, bye, namaste. Hi everybody, I am Husky Light. Thank you for stopping by. I have got Maree Batchelor with me. We are going to talk about spiritual stuff, ascension. We are going to go through the awakening process that Maree went through, which completely turned her life upside down, changed everything round, and she's in such a different position now than she was. And let's just, I'm not going to talk much because I don't like talking much during the interviews. I really prefer Maree. Hiya.
Hello there. Hi.
Hiya.
Hi.
Go for it. You explain. First of all, we want to go through, because you were a family doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You have gone from a family GP over to where you are now. So I think the first thing to go through was, what was that process?
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. It's a real pleasure to come on and speak with you. This is great. Well, my awakening story starts really back in June 2008. And it came about when my 4-year-old son was suddenly killed in front of my whole extended family on a walk that we were all going on in the middle of winter on a local beach. And I, prior to that moment, had been living the picture-perfect life. I was a GP or a family doctor, married to a surgeon. We lived in a mansion with a swimming pool and tennis court, and I had 4 children at that point, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and everything was just going along in a very 3D, very, as I say, picture-perfect sense. Yeah. And at that time I'd never been spiritual, I'd never been religious, I was very scientific, and of course all my training had led me, further into that. And after he was suddenly hit by a car that was driven by an underage driver who didn't have control of the car, he actually it was literally like he had aimed the car at my son, and he was standing on a footpath, and he pinned him to the fence. And it was immediately when this happened that I realised something else was going on. And it's hard to sort of explain, because in one point my humanness was just in such deep grief and absolute overwhelm and anxiety and terror. But then there was also something else coming in at that time, suggesting to me that there was something else going on here, and that there was somehow something was being set up.
There was some synchronicities there, wasn't there, with that?
Well, absolutely. And one of the things, it happened on a Williams Road beach. My son's name is William. We had been walking on the beach, and when we were down a cliff, and I was looking up from the beach, thinking that I could see a car coming down the road when we were about to walk up the stairs onto the footpath up above. And I went back down to the beach and realised you can't see the road. There's a cliff. You can't see the road. But I had seen a car coming down there. So there was this sort of thing was going on. And it was interesting. I was mentioning to you before that my son had said to me, I love you more than you, Mum. Yeah. I love you more than you. Now, this was something that he used to say to me frequently, and I didn't understand it. And it was only after this accident that it suddenly dawned on me. He was here to wake me up, for me to find the real me, the real you, capital U. And that's what he was alluding to for, those times that he'd said that to me. It was also interesting when he was airlifted to the children's hospital. So an ambulance arrived, a flying ambulance arrived. He was alive, but only just at that point in time. And he was airlifted to the children's hospital in the city. And my husband, who had accompanied him, had rung me when I was packing my things to get up there in the car. And he rang to say, look, he's made it into the hospital and everything's going to be okay because he's made it. That means his survival rate is so much more improved. And it was at that time that a ball of light came into my vision and actually obstructed my vision, and I was just going, what is this? And I didn't realise at the time that he had actually died on the operating table. He'd had open chest cardiac massage, and a light had actually come to me at that moment. So there were things that were already starting to happen. And again, you can understand, the worst state that I've ever been in absolute sheer just overwhelm, grief, terror, the whole, your worst nightmare. Mm-hmm. Yet I was even at that point getting some sort of signals that something else was going on. And even after a few weeks after his funeral, I went down to the site where he was killed, and a ball of light came out from that site and actually enveloped me in this feeling of peace and harmony. And I was just told, it's all okay. Yeah. And I was standing at the site that he was killed. Now, my human mind was going, how can it possibly be okay? But the feeling was so overwhelming, and it was so peaceful, and this light surrounding me. And I was, again, it's confusing, but I just slipped into this. It's all okay. There's something bigger going on here. Mm-hmm. And, I wanted to even ring my family members and start saying, it's all okay. There's something here going on that's bigger than we can understand. Mm-hmm. But of course, by the time I'd sort of driven back home from the site, I was like, what on earth was that? How could this possibly be okay? So of course, then I was put back into the human. The thing that was also prompting me to sort of open up to more of this was the fact that I went looking for some assistance to the grieving process. It was horrific. And people were saying, go and see a psychologist or see the doctor, go and get some sort of support. And it was really speaking to them that I realised they've got nothing really to offer that's going to be of any benefit to me. Now, I'm not saying that other people in that position may not find some help through, counselling and through the support of the medical profession, but I just found it extremely limiting. And in fact, I was passing the box of tissues over to the therapist, the psychologist, as I was explaining the story to them. And so I really felt there was an inadequacy there, and they could not meet me where I was at, because I was actually coming in with spiritual understandings and a higher perspective, even at that early stage, that was helping me through the grieving process. And, you know, I was guided continuously, you know, be quiet, be still. I knew to start meditating. I'd never done that before, but I was guided to do that. I was guided to read spiritual texts. I started with Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, read it, you know, and just went, I get it. I understand that. I know what's going on. Yeah. I was then guided to a local ashram where I started to study, you know, some of it was, you know, related to an Indian tradition. I was looking at Hinduism and understanding the higher mystical perspectives of, you know, the Hindu religion. And then, of course, I looked at Buddhism and other religions and realized that at the top of all the religions, there was this, you know, connection, and it was a mystical understanding that was the spirituality that was coming in and making so much sense to me. And then, of course, my science brain wanted to understand more of it. And then that's when things started to unfold more and more for me, where I could start relating it to a science that then started to get downloaded to me.
Yeah.
And really that became even more significant after I visited a temple in India. I went to a little village in India, and there was a great being buried in this temple. Mm-hmm. I was really feeling the frequencies of the village when I arrived there, but there was a moment in the temple that was actually life-changing again.
Do you think you were led to that temple?
Look, I think
what gave you thought, I'm going to go to a temple in India?
Well, it was the fact that I'd gone to the local ashram, and the local ashram was connected to this village in India, because the lineage of the great being that was buried there, he then had his disciple that then was the teacher of the guy that was running the ashram where I was attending. So the ashram was saying, you know, we do it every 2 years, we go back to India, why don't you come? Interestingly, they had asked me on previous occasions. So my son had died in 2008, and this was 2014, and they had been going every 2 years. And they had asked me, you know, why don't you come? And I had replied, which is really interesting because I didn't even understand my response. I can't go. It will be dangerous for my family. Now, why those words would come out of my mouth, I didn't understand then, but I do now. Yeah. Because the awakening was so incredible after my experience in the temple that I came home and nothing of my 3D life really made a lot of sense. I was seriously catapulted into what I would call cosmic consciousness.
Yeah.
Living in this high vibrational reality, stripping off my old programs and really just going, well, you know, I don't get a lot of this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was very difficult for my family. I mean, my husband, who I had been, you know, partnered to for 30 years, married for 20, was just wondering who was this that had come home from India. And, you know, it was his fear programs that got activated. As much as I was activated into cosmic consciousness, he was activated down into deep-seated fear. And I understand that. But his reaction was fairly abrupt. I mean, it was, you know, I don't understand you. It's, you know, and he asked me to leave the family because he just found it so confusing and difficult. And I had 4, you know, the children at that stage. I'd gone on to have another baby in those years after William had died. In fact, another interesting thing was that my daughter that I had was due a year to the date of William's death, which was sort of a miracle in itself at that time, because, you know, to actually get pregnant and actually to have a baby in that amount of time, and for her due date to be exactly, and her name means the light, which was just also an interesting thing as well. But anyway, so, you know, I've returned from India. I'm having these extremely, you know, out there experiences and downloads and starting to see reality in a very different way, not sort of fitting in with who I had been before, finding that my just whole understanding of the world, of science, of humans, the nature of, you know, of the human, it was just all being, you know, reprogrammed, rewired, stripped off me. And it was a full-on experience.
To suddenly become awake, but be surrounded by everybody else who is still asleep.
Yeah.
Is the most, it seems devastating at the time. It obviously everything has a reason, and it was done in divine timing as well, but at the time that it actually happens, and I suppose really we, because we're awake, because we're did you hear that then?
I did. What was that?
Okay, I might have to call you back because I'm echoing.
Yeah, I can't hear it on my end.
Right, there's a glitch in the system.
Right.
So I'm going to call you back.
Okay. All righty. See you in a minute. Because when it happened before in a previous interview, we listened to the recording, and it was my voice coming through before I actually spoke.
Yeah, I'm going to check it after, but that was really confusing because I was like, oh my God, I'm talking at two different.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to look at that.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it.
So we were discussing the devastation that comes with such an abrupt awakening.
Yeah.
And, you know, I understand it from my higher dimensional self. I know why it needed to be so abrupt, because to go from such a 3D, you know, existence with no understanding, and to really get me to where I am now, it had to be a fairly forceful thing, because my life had been so perfect. I would have been gripping onto it and not wanting to let go. Mm-hmm. And so it needed to really catapult me and show me what reality really is, the multidimensionality of us. And of course it was devastating, but then I was protected, and I did get these soothing sort of experiences and energies and messages that gave me that understanding. Yeah. But you're right, the human was devastated. And, you know, I was thrown out, living in a hotel, separated from my children, had, you know, my finances really, you know, the money had been, taken from me. And, you know, I was really trying to integrate. And we don't have mentors for this, particularly in our societies. Now, I think sometimes it is understood in other societies where there is more of a sort of a native, you know, element of connection back to wisdom and spirituality. But, you know, in our societies, in the Western society, there is often, well, certainly for me, no mentor, no guide. And it's beyond even, you know, the understandings. It's where we've got to see mysticism and science and you know, connecting. And actually it encompasses anthropology, astrology, astronomy, you know, ancient civilizations. You know, it takes the lid off everything and starts connecting the dots. Well, you know, you've got to do this research yourself and actually start connecting that it is all the same thing. The UFO phenomena, the extraterrestrials, you know, it's all connected. Because what became so evident to me was this being that woke me up in the temple so dramatically in 2014 was actually a galactic being. Mm-hmm. So I became aware of this, that this being that had incarnated on the planet in India in the sort of early 1900s was actually from a galactic star family and was actually an embodiment of those frequencies. And that's why he still has the potential to wake people up as he emanates the energies from his side. And he's also known to come in and visit people in their sleep or in their dreams or at other times, because he is a multidimensional galactic being. And so it was, you know, all of that started to download to me as well. And then you sort of
Did he ever tell you which planet? Or which
no, you know, I didn't get that sense, you know, that direct communication from him. I just understood that he was of my galactic star being family, that it was like an activation of who I was meant to be, you know, my mission here on the planet, that he was, you know, blue ray, and the other great beings in India were blue ray. And also, if we look back through the Hindu tradition, there is a blue ray theme through all those gods that the Hindus actually bow to, and without the understanding that those gods of the ancient times were actually galactic beings.
Yeah.
And they had a presence on the planet. They were actually visiting in their craft, and there are pictures of craft and or depictions in some of the ancient texts describing the people arriving or the beings arriving through the skies, and that's why they were bowing down to them, because they were blue and they were coming in and they had special powers, but it was because they were higher dimensional beings. If
you look at the is it the Madonna picture? There's even a craft in that.
Yeah, look, absolutely. So we realize that this goes across all of the early civilizations. You look in Egypt and you start understanding what the pyramids were about and what some of the depictions are of the beings that were walking on the planet then. And so it is all related. This has been going on for, many, many, many years. It's just that we have been closed off from our truth. And then that's the other aspect that got woken up in me, was understanding that the human condition has actually been shut off from who we are supposed to be and our spiritual connectedness, our connection to our multidimensionality and who we really are. And then that's where it fits in with my medical profession, because I was there to help heal people in the past, and I'm here to help heal people now. But of course I function in a very different way, because it's bringing in that multidimensional aspect of me and using those frequencies to come in and actually help heal people.
Yeah.
So I call myself a multidimensional energetic healer, and I work to clean off that's been done to us to prevent us from connecting to the truth of who we are.
All the programming that has been used to put people to sleep, the tablets,
absolutely. So I see that we've been blocked in many ways, and I see that we've been programmed from our conditioning and from growing up in certain societies and with the matrix type belief systems that we have, and how we're meant to behave in a certain way, and the programming that goes with that through the education system, and then further shut down by carrying family lineage programs and some of the genetics that are not in our highest good. And then having our past life experiences and our karmic experiences that come in and program us, and being kept in the incarnational wheel and actually coming down with vows and contracts that don't serve us but actually just make us obedient and behave in this matrix. And then I also understand, as you were pointing out, the pharmaceuticals and the things that are being done to actually prevent us from waking up, suppressing us rather than activating us. And even down to the DNA genetic manipulation that has been done by some of the off-world beings that have not been so benevolent, because they wanted to use us for their own good. And look, I understand that for the average person, this amount of information is just seriously, out of their realm of understanding. And I get that, because it is only through activation of our dormant DNA and our energetic system that we can actually start to comprehend these concepts that I'm talking about. So, it's
luckily a lot of my subscribers are awake, and they are very much in the same woo zone as we are. So, and I'm going to stop talking now because I keep going flickering.
Okay. So, I think I look back on all that's happened to me, and as devastating and destructive as it's been to my human, I do get the higher perspective of why it has happened. And it is here for me to actually bring in light frequencies that I embody now of these higher dimensions of myself, with assistance from the Blu-ray Galactic Star Being family, And these frequencies are to come in and actually help people wake up and to activate them and really help them get back to their natural state, which is one of peace, love, joy, harmony, self-healing, well-being. Yeah. And so, you know, this is what I'm all about now. It's actually getting people to wake up to their full potential. And interestingly, you know, it's effective work. It doesn't really even matter where a person's at. There is always an avenue for me to get in, and with the frequencies, crack something open that actually brings in more light and takes them away from their fear or away from their dis-ease or their unease, and you know, steps them in the right direction for the potential for, you know, healing and waking up.
Yeah. And you actually do run a surgery now as well. It's just a completely different type of surgery.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually working from home now because I actually enjoy being in the frequencies of where I'm living, and they're very supportive. So I see my patients, or now I tend to call them clients, at home, and do a lot of energetic work with them. And it's energetic counseling, it's hands-on work. I do toning now. And, you know, it comes in different ways. It's all about just bringing the frequencies in for the patients to just help them heal. But I also do a lot of Skype sessions, and what has amazed me is how effective the Skype sessions are, that the energies come in immediately, even though we're working through a computer and we're working, you know, thousands of miles away and often in different time zones, that this work is just, you know, it crosses through all time space barriers, and it's immediate. Yeah. And people are having incredible results even on Skype. So, you know, I'm very, you know, really happy with that. And it's great because, you know, we need to be waking up the global community, and a lot of the local people here, it's almost beyond their understanding, so they're not reaching out for it. But certainly on an international level, people are. So
yeah, and I think the fact that, well, I mean, we were talking about this before, time is not linear.
Yeah.
So there's the fact you can reach through time Absolutely. And space and everything else to help others. It doesn't matter how far away in 3D time you think somebody is, that we can manage to reach through all of that and just work on different dimensions, work on different parallels.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's so where's your family up to with all of this now?
Well,
are there any kinks of light coming through from any of them?
Well, my ex-husband has remained in his belief system of that, you know, what I'm talking about is completely mad. And he really doesn't have any respect for who I am and what I do now. And so, you know, that has ended in divorce and financial separation, which has been, you know, very difficult, no doubt for him, but, you know, and difficult for me, and difficult for the children. And I sometimes wonder, why did it need to be this painful for everybody? But it, you know, was catapulting everybody in these directions. And what I see for my children is that my younger two are really waking up. They're understanding the energies and really starting to feel that. They're 7 and 11. And then my older two, I've got 15 and a 16-year-old, are still really resisting it. They seem to think that mum's, you know, unstable and that this doesn't really make a lot of sense to them, but they're still very concerned about what their friends will think about what I do, and it's too odd for them. But, you know, they do see that there is more peace, more love, more harmony. You know, they do see the positives in me and what I create in the home. But, you know, it's just hard for them because they have lived so many years of their life as I was in a 3D existence without understanding the multidimensional reality.
But again, you are triggering them into awakening, which is so good because they haven't got as many years as an adult of programming, etc. So it's easier to get through to them. You know, I find that my 12-year-old is waking up very slowly. So it's a lot easier, and it's the children that they will wake up quicker than we do.
Yeah, well, look, I guess that I see that the benefit for my children is that they have a mother that has this awakening contact with the multidimensional realities, and, they get to experience that. And then they also get to have a very 3D lifestyle with their father, who is a very successful surgeon, and can provide for them very nicely in that reality. So they get to experience both. And I guess that's an advantage to the children who will need to start to integrate some of this, because this is where we're moving. Mm-hmm. Humanity is shifting, the frequencies are shifting on the planet. This shift in consciousness is happening. Yeah. And the fact that you and I are having these conversations, and that we've found each other across the globe and made contact and having this interview, is proof of that. Yeah. That, we are shifting. These conversations are happening. You understand what I'm talking about. And, we've met, for the first time today. So that's proof that something is going on. And, I understand the resistance that people have and the lack of ability to comprehend what we're talking about, because I was there, before 2008, meeting me. I would have thought that I, was really crazy, that this is just sort of, it would have been incomprehensible. So, I do have empathy and compassion, but, I've been asleep and I've woken up, and I now feel like I have a mission here to help others, as they transition through these experiences that are going to become more and more evident for people.
That's the thing, isn't it? Once we are awake, it's this full-on mission then to try and wake everybody else up as well, no Absolutely. Matter how long they've been asleep, and it gets really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, well, it is really tricky, because to get that message across to people, and really it depends on their receptivity and where are they at with all of this. And we can just hope that our frequencies come through and somehow start to activate them in some way.
The people that come through to you for healings, or come through for advice from you, is there a running theme with them? Are they in the beginning stages of awakening, or are they already awake, or is it a mixture? How does it...
It's a mixture. Generally, the international people have been, they're fairly awake, because they've found me on my other Skype interviews and YouTube interviews and on my website. And so that material really appeals to people who have already started to wake up and understand this level of information. But people will come to me in person because they've tried other, all sorts of things, and nothing has worked. So they've tried mainstream medicine, or they're at their last, they're just not getting any benefit or relief from other modalities, and particularly, in the mainstream medical field. So they'll come to me. And interestingly, some of them will wake up quite quickly. So they were obviously guided to me, and they're quite ripe and ready. So it is a mixture, and it is interesting because it does depend on their receptivity, whether they're, they seem to be ripe and ready, and then boom.
There is. I know when I do healings and clearings, sometimes there is that. It's almost like a pop. You suddenly you clear them, and then they have this whole other. It's opening up for them. We allow them to, we give them that window to be able to open up then, but they're already pre-guided to come to us, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think, when we've had our awakening and we start to understand the synchronicities and the way things have been set up for people, you start to see that a lot of it is guided from higher dimensions, and, people, are intuitively being shown, what to do and where to go. So if we sit back and actually recognize that there is more being done for us by the benevolent frequencies and energies and the benevolent off-world beings to assist humanity to wake up, then, it's not so much of the struggling, it's actually just listening and being still and being more sensitive and to the guidance.
Yeah.
So, we are being assisted.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's such a great thing.
That's something else as well with I wish I'd stopped doing that. Can you see that happening?
Yeah, there's flickering. Yeah.
That's really weird. I've never experienced that before. But it is, so I'm just trying to ignore it. The matrix is really showing through at the moment. Yeah, we were talking before about disclosure, and that I mentioned it earlier on when we were talking before we came on air, and the lead up to it, and the fact that we have got to have complete faith and belief in this process as we go through it, because we said we've got the other side of things as well, like the governments and things like that, who are also, they're going to use disclosure to their own ends.
Mm-hmm.
As well. So they're going to bring in the fact that this is all bad, and the only way forward with this is one world and one world government and things like that. We have to stand in our own light, I think, as we move forward with disclosure, and know that yes, there are more, there's malevolent beings out there as well, but the main of it, we're in touch with benevolence. They are trying to bring peace around for us, and it's just this bit of a spiritual war going on.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think, as we were discussing, I don't think that disclosure is going to come through the government sources in the way that is going to benefit humanity. I think that they will come through with their own agendas to try and control the disclosure. But I think that the disclosure will come through, through the likes of people like you and I waking up and helping to spread the message and doing precisely what we're doing. And, this is disclosure. This is disclosure as we're having these discussions. And, I think that people will need to wake up to the fact that the government is going to control the information. And, they have done so for so many years. So to think that they're all of a sudden going to say more than they have to and not come in with some sort of, controlling agenda is, I think that, we have to realise that that's probably unlikely to happen. It's unlikely that they'll come up with the absolute truth.
Yeah, we are the disclosure that's going forward, and everybody who is already awake and everyone who is going through the awakening process, it's up to us to get this information out as much as possible, whether somebody understands it right now or doesn't make sense of it or doesn't get it. They will at some point in the future.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think, it is interesting. I think more and more people are starting to ask questions and are starting to, wake up in some areas of their life, if it's not the full picture. And we know that sometimes this starts off more slowly, and, it's not always going to be as dramatic as mine was. And you experienced a similar waking up that to me, that it can be a slow process of just sort of undoing some of the programming and waking them up to some of the systems that are in place, and that will generally will start to organically happen for more and more people, and that will bring more and more conversations up and more understandings, and then people researching and finding these sorts of interviews. And I think it's happening. It is happening. And as we talked about, it's not linear, and it's not always the way we expect it to happen. And we just have to, from our guidance and from our knowing, humanity is going to wake up, and we are starting to do that more and more rapidly. So,
that's right. How would anybody get hold of you?
So my website is mareebatchelor.com. So that's MareeBatchelor.com. And they can email me. It's bachelormaree@gmail.com. My Skype name is just Maree Batchelor, all lowercase, or one word. So people can contact me via any of those means, and certainly have a look at my website to have a look at some of the information about what I do. There's a little 4-minute video that describes some of the processes. I'm very happy to hear from people to actually get this work out there and actually start helping the process of the shift.
Yeah, I'm going to get all of this information down below the video as well. Is there anything else that you want to add to this, to go through?
No, look, I think that it's just lovely to be able to share this information with people. It's been great to have this conversation with you and actually know that, we are, like-minded people, waking up to who we are with a mission here on the planet, and just connecting with more and more people that want this to happen.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited about what's going to unfold for humanity, and I think that we're part of it. We're part of this process, and we've got a job to do. So it's great to do this.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Maree. I'm going to switch this off. That's really putting me off the flickering. Thank you so much. All of your information will be down below. I know that you'd be really, really happy to hear from anybody who wants to get in touch with you. To my subscribers, again, if you've got any questions or anything, just get them down below. Hopefully, again, this will be the first. This is an introduction interview, and there will be more in the future as well. So thank you, Maree. Thank you so much. And we'll speak to everybody soon.